Hey guys, today I'm going to be going over how to reload 223 ammo from start to finish. Okay, first we're going to have to tumble all this brass, but I did a video on tumbling earlier, so I will put the card for that video right here. So if you're curious on how to tumble it, just go ahead and click that card, and I'm going to skip to the next step. Okay, so this is what all the brass looks like after it's dried. And now we are going to spray it with this bullet lubricant. I'll be posting a video on how to make this stuff later. So go ahead and hit that subscribe button so you can see that. Anyway, we're just going to lube it. Okay, next up is we're going to set up the press with our full-length sizing die. Okay, to set up the sizing die, you're pretty much just going to put it all the way down to the shell plate and then a quarter turn more. Now, it's kind of hard to see back there, but it is coming into contact with that shell plate. And the shell plate's even pushing it up a little bit, so it's as far down as it can possibly go. I'm using the Lee rifle dies. Now, I actually don't recommend Lee rifle dies for the Hornady AP press because I actually did have to grind this lock and load bushing down a little bit to be able to get this to seat good enough for my AR pistol. Now we're just going to size this, so we're going to place a case in there, go up, size it, pop the primer. One tip I'll give you is before you go ham and size them all, it's really critical that you're going to make sure that it's actually cycling in your gun. So I'm going to wipe off some cases and I'm going to cycle them in my AR. Okay, so we're going to take these rounds, we're going to pull this back, and now it won't feed very well without the bullet, so you're going to have to kind of start it, and then you're just going to let it go, and then you should be able to just cycle it, and it shouldn't fight you. And I'm going to check all 5 of these rounds. If it fights you at all, then that means you need to drop your sizing die down a little bit more, because these should just cycle clean. Okay, so I know all these are cycling good, so now I'm gonna go beast mode and I'm just gonna size all these. So the next step of what we need to do is we need to trim our brass. So rifle brass, the pressures are a lot higher, and with the neck it'll elongate over time, so you have to trim it. You want to trim it after you size it. Well, it also depends on the type of trim you have. I have one that goes off of the neck, and so I have to trim it after I size it. If you have one that doesn't go off the neck and it goes off of the case overall length, then you don't necessarily have to size it first. So I'm going to be using this. It's called the World's Finest Trimmer. This is their second version, and essentially I am going to attempt to get my brass to about 1.75, which is the case trim length stated in the Hornady manual. So this is my gauge, and I'll make another video on how to set this up, but essentially this one is 1.75. I was just showing you, and so I'll put this one in and then get it to the proper depth, and then I'll just grab I have my box of brasses down there. You can't see it, but this one is like 1.76, and so I'll just run my drill, and I could feel it cutting it there. And then after I trim it, I'm going to chamfer it and deburr it. I'll put links to all the tools that I'm using. And then with 223 brass, you have to ream out that primer pocket. So the one on the right has been reamed out, and the one on the left has not. And so if you don't ream out the primer pocket, you'll never get a new primer in. They make special tools for it. Honestly, I just use a Phillips head, and then I'll just run it on the Phillips head for a little bit, and then it'll ream it out, and then I can get a primer in, and then that one's done. So I just go down the line and bust them out, and you'll see I have it all clamped down, and I'll have just all these running continuously as I do it. And I like to wear they make special tools that you have a lot of these heads on them. I wanted to use what I had lying around, so the only thing I bought was this and then this. So anyway, I'll go ahead and show you what it looks like when I'm just doing them all. Okay, so I got the brass all sized and trimmed, and now I'm going to tumble it again just to remove that thin coat of lube off of it. Okay, so I got my brass all dry and all the stainless steel media separated. As far as the primers go, we're going to take the primers and then put them in this primer flipper on the ridge side. And then you'll get them all in there, and then you'll just take them until they're all facing with the cup down. So like this. Okay, that's pretty good. I have two guys that didn't flip over. Sometimes I'll just go by hand and flip like the last two disobedient primers that never wanted to flip. Okay, so that looks good. And then one jumped out. I'll put this on, flip it over, and then I'll go ahead and pick them all up. One tip is make sure you don't have a primer sitting in there from last time that might be like a small pistol primer. Since I'm doing a small rifle, you don't want to put small pistol primers into a small rifle, So then I'll just go and pick them all up. Okay, and then once you get them all in the tube, just come over here, put it in here, and then pull this pin out. Okay, and then they'll all drop in there. Okay, and then I'll stick this thing in here. This it keeps some weight on the primers so they keep feeding well, and it'll help me know when I'm out of primers, because I'll have just about an inch and some change sticking up at the top. Okay, and then the first stage does nothing. Oops, because I don't have a die there. Okay, to keep our powder charge set up correctly, I'll just place one case in here. I already adjusted the height and everything, so see it'll go up. Gonna push that, dump the powder. I'll just go back down, and I'm gonna weigh it. And I've already adjusted a little bit. I'm not quite all the way there. For this, I want 22 grains. So I'm at 22.8. So I'm gonna adjust a little bit more and get it so it's exactly 22. Okay, now for the bullet seating die, I'll place my bullet in the cartridge and go up, and I'll start with it further out than I think it needs to be, because you can always seat it further in. But once you get it in too far, you're gonna have to pull the bullet, and that's a pain. So you start further out and just go in. So I'll seat it there. I'm not gonna crimp it yet, and I'm just come over here and measure it with my calipers. A cartridge overall length of about 2.19 is about what I'm looking for. And that, so I'm 2.188, so I'm like a couple thousandths too short, but that's good enough for what I'm shooting. The reason that mine was already adjusted because I already have it this adjusted, but you would want to start out and kind of work your way in until you get to the right case length you need. Now, to know what case length you need, again, you're going to go to your reloading manual and you're going to look for the max COL, which is the max cartridge overall length. Okay. Now for the crimp die, we're just going to go up, and the crimp die will come in contact with the shell plate and then push up a little bit more, and that's going to crimp onto the case right there. And you don't want to go too hard. You don't want to really eat into it. I don't even know if you'll be able to see it, but it just puts barely a little crimp there on the very end. So that's pretty much it as far as reloading 223 start to finish. It really isn't too hard. The trickiest part with the rifle brass as opposed to the pistol brass is just that part where you have to tumble it, size it, trim it, chamfer it, deburr it, re-tumble it to clean it, and then you're off to the races with everything else. Okay, if you have any other questions about reloading 223, just put them in the comments below. Thanks.